Thank you, and thank you to this committee for allowing me to come before you once again today on the same issue, SNAP and retaining nutrition benefits for the majority, for 42 million people in this country. Hunger is a policy choice, and once again, we are considering legislation that makes the choice to take food away from people. Nowhere is that more apparent than with Republicans in the Senate, where they went to great lengths to exempt certain states from their dangerous policies in order to secure votes. If it's so great and it doesn't cut benefits or food to people, why was Senator Murkowski trying to protect her state at the expense of 48 others? The Senate worked through the night rewriting provisions by hand to convince the parliamentarian to approve workarounds to exempt certain states from the most harmful provisions of this bill. They bent over backwards to spare some Americans from these cruel policies to secure tax cuts for billionaires. In fact, today at 12:44, President Trump tweeted in part, and I quote, "Elon may get more subsidy than any human being in history by far, and without subsidies, Elon would probably have to close up shop and head back to South Africa." Republicans in Congress made it clear that they have the power to choose who goes hungry in this country. They have the power to choose who is harmed by this budget. Last week, 23 governors sent a letter to congressional leaders to raise the alarm. If states cannot come up with the money to replace federal funds, they will have to cut SNAP enrollment or end their programs entirely. The choice was clear: to protect certain Americans from going hungry. In my home state of Connecticut, 390,000 individuals are at risk of going hungry because of this legislation. Under this legislation, Connecticut could be required to pay up to an additional $221 million annually for SNAP benefits and an additional $39 million in administrative costs. These funds must come from somewhere. Connecticut, like many other states, will be forced to choose between feeding hungry people and using those funds for other critical services like housing, public health, education, or even public safety. The governor of Pennsylvania expressed concern that if this bill passes, this program may end permanently in his state. We do not have to make this choice. States should not have to make this choice. My amendment would strike the nutrition subtitle from this bill, eliminating these dangerous cuts and untested policies. It would protect 42 million Americans who rely on SNAP to help put food on the table. It would ensure hungry children, seniors, and people with disabilities are not losing benefits to pay for tax cuts for the billionaires. The wealthiest nation as the wealthiest nation, we can afford to feed our children. We've heard a lot from my colleagues about how this bill does not cut food to hungry children and working families, and it only applies to able-bodied adults. That is absolutely not true. If it were true, Senator Murkowski would not have been working so hard to carve Alaska out of this provision. My amendment is an opportunity to demonstrate our values and protect these programs if that is what we truly want to do. Much of what we're talking about with work requirements and some of the other provisions, we tried to offer workarounds for that when this bill was first considered before the House. We offered amendment after amendment to try to make this bill better, and every single one of them was rejected. We should not be forcing Americans to go hungry so that billionaires could get another tax break. As Mr. McGovern said earlier, the Defense Department has never passed an audit. Elon Musk has more subsidies than any human being, according to Donald Trump, in the history of humanity. So why aren't we starting there? Why are we looking to take $2 per person per day from the most vulnerable individuals and not having any conversation about the wealthiest, the most well-connected, and some of these defense programs that are bloated and have never passed an audit? I urge this committee to support my amendment. I urge the American public to read this bill and look at these provisions and understand what it says and who will be affected. Because at the end of the day, it is our neighbors, it is our friends, it is our children, it is our church communities, it is all of the people that we represent. And with that, I yield back.